Hello, I'm Dr. Brian Carr, and I'm a candidate for the Member-at-Large position for the Lubbock Independent School District. And this is another one of the series of short videos I'm shooting from my backyard on a nice Saturday afternoon, in which I want to give you a chance to know my position and know where I'm coming from. As it may be difficult for you to find the time to come to some of the public gatherings, and I do want to have an informed electorate out there for as early elections start in a week or so, and as the general election comes around on May 7th. You want to know where we stand, and not just a canned handout or some other short thing, but spoken truly from the heart. So I think in this moment I'd like to talk about how my desire is to represent all of Lubbock. Now, I think I've had some criticism placed on me that how can I understand the difficulties faced by certain members of our society. Now here, raised as a white male in Lubbock, am I totally blind and unable to consider what might be of need for other members in our community? And I think that's flat wrong. That we're all people. We all bleed the same color. We all have the same needs. I don't think there's a difference between what I want for my children, my grandchildren, and what you want for your children, your grandchildren. And so I think this is nonsense to sit there and say that I can't understand. Now, I will sit there and say that I need help. I need your input to tell me what matters to you, and that, no, I did not grow up in certain, I grew up kind of middle, central Lubbock, but I have been my whole life. That I have friends drawing from all circumstances that I count on, that I talk with, that they provide me with good counsel. And then I think my years, 30 years as a psychologist, I spent endless hours talking to thousands of members of our community over those years about what matters and what's needed. And so I recognize that my experience may have been different. But at the same time, things that I learned, like for example teaching, that I went to San Antonio and St. Mary's University, where I got my master's in psychology, and put myself through school in loans, as well as working as a substitute teacher at Holmes High School, which is on the west side of San Antonio, a largely Hispanic school. And I can tell you that was an eye-opening experience, because as a sub you just kind of got thrown in there, and yet I managed to make it work to help raise some extra money to pay for my school. And it taught me about public school system as a teacher, as an educator. Now, I've continued that over the years. I have taught at Texas Tech School of Medicine for about 30 years. I have served as adjunct faculty in the Department of Internal Medicine at the med school, and have a lot of contact with medical students and allied health students. So I want to be sensitive to what those needs are. So I think that what we got to do is this idea of saying, we can all come together. I don't want to divide us. And yet I think there are forces out there that do want to try to build on this, and to say that there's just no way that I can have an understanding. Now, I think as another demonstration of what I'm talking about as being very much an activist, is that about 2 years ago, when I heard that children were being held and detained and separated from their families down at El Paso on the border, that I thought that was just a tragic thing to go on. And so I considered, well, how do we support, how do we do anything about this? And so I thought we could go down on 19th University, we could jump up and down with signs, and what would be the effect of that? And I said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. Now, these were children down in El Paso that I didn't know, didn't have any connection with. Lubbock's about 350 miles away from there, but I said, we've got to do something. So I loaded up. Well, first off, I've got a online presence to where I raise money for office supplies for an advocacy center down in El Paso that was working with those children and those families. I raised about $2,700 in 2 days. I loaded up 48 hours after I first heard of this problem. I loaded up with 2 of my friends, and we drove to El Paso, where we delivered about $1,000 worth of office supplies, as well as giving them a check for a substantial amount of money, because I cared about those kids. And they were just kids. They weren't brown, black, white. It didn't matter to me about their ethnicity. It just concerned me that as they were locked up in those cages, that we could do better And so I think that I've demonstrated that desire to reach across whatever lines that people try to instill. That I just have no sympathy for people that want to sit there and say it's impossible for me to know any different. And these are the same people, I think, that have been attacking me. They've been tearing down my signs. They've been creating grief about, well, how could I know what it's like? But come on, anybody that's got some life experience, you know, you learn, you never stop learning, and I want to be there for our community and for our kids. And I think that it's that commitment, which I've demonstrated amply over the years, that I'm ready set to get to work and to take the board to new places to help our kids. And it's all about the relationships involved, and so I think that we can all work this together, because otherwise we will never reach anything. That a house divided will fall, as Abraham Lincoln said. So we need to come together in these moments. Not that we'll always have agreement, not that we will always see the same vision, but by golly, we need to talk about it and have something happen about it. So I hope that you'll consider a vote for me, member at large, Lubbock Independent School District. And I appreciate your hearing me out on some of these issues. And if you have any questions, give me a call at 806-795-3911. Thanks.